Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show, Me Soul Happy. Love saying that. It's a multidimensional personal transformation company that blends psychology, energy work, subconscious rewiring into educational entertainment, live calibration as well, to provide you all with tools out there and to help you comprehend, feel more present, live a more authentic life, and release unnecessary pain, disease, and death in the world. We're ecstatic that our founder is here, Hannah Fedor, joining us to talk more about all the work she does and how she's here to help you. Thank you for coming back. I know last week we got to meet you. How's everything?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I always feel blessed to be able to have conversations with new people because some people are beginners in self-awareness and some people are masters, yet everybody has struggles and problems. It doesn't matter how many times you've worked through something or how much money you have or where in the world. Everybody deals with human problems, and sometimes we internalize those and we think that they belong to us, and they don't. And so I am here to help change that narrative and help people love themselves a little deeper and make it a little easier to enjoy their life.
Beautiful. And I know just a little of her backstory. You shared that you grew up in like a real high pressure religion, Mormonism, right? So this perfectionistic environment,
totally.
Which worthiness, you say, was tied to performance. So you learned how to suppress a lot of emotions growing up and mistrust yourself. And, you know, you have trauma from that. You mentioned we all have our own trauma and you needed to kind of reprogram things. And then you realize, wow, transformation is possible. And here you are helping others, right? Just a little of the backstory, you know, what brought you here, if you don't mind sharing. I know I just touched upon a little bit, but let's get to a little overview as to what you do. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll touch into my backstory a little bit. So growing up in a very perfectionist environment, as a lot of people do, it's not actually built on trust. It's built on controlling how you're perceived.
Okay.
And so you tend to really focus on, well, how does this look? How are people going to judge me or view me if I make this choice? And so you never truly feel supported to make maybe an empowering decision that makes sense to you, but maybe confusing to somebody else. And so you're always kind of making decisions based on how it's going to look on the outside. And when you live in a world like that, you tend to ignore how you feel on the inside. And that's where the disconnect comes from, what your brain is thinking and then what you're experiencing in your body. And so it's why there's so many diseases in the world that doctors say, we don't know where this comes from. We don't know what the cause is of this. I am somebody who has been studying that big giant question mark because I needed to learn that for myself. I was somebody who felt well beyond what doctors would tell me. Yeah. And if you have a doctor who is not emotionally developed themselves, how can they help you understand what empathy is if they actually don't even understand what you're talking about? And so I've recognized that other people have these kind of blind spots with themselves where sometimes they don't recognize you are so successful at what you're doing, but it's the way that it's been framed to you. You think that it's a flaw. You think it's a character flaw, or you think it's something to do with your personality and it's not changeable. And that's really what I want to help people understand, is that what a lot of people think is their personality or their identity or their genetics, it's actually just a pattern. And if it's explained to you easily in a way that you not only understand and feel, that's the very reason why you'll, kind of like in a video game of your life, you finally pass that level. And it's
Got
like,
it.
oh my gosh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I can release it. And so I did that naturally with addiction. And by understanding, why do I keep reaching for something outside of myself when I'm really stressed out? Well, it's because I wanted to connect to myself. And a lot of addictions, if you look at it, they center around the throat and the mouth. So you have somebody who's actually feeling something inside. They've been trained to, well, how does it look on the outside? I'm stressed out. I need to pretend I'm okay. I'm stressed out at work. I'm stressed out about money. I'm going to go outside every hour and I'm going to take a smoke break.
Yeah.
And so what I realized even about myself is I was trying to have a conversation with myself. I used to be a smoker. I used to be a smoker. I used to be a vapor. I used to have a Diet Coke addiction. I used to have an eating disorder. And it just went from one different facet of that when I realized at the very end, when I only had vaping as a vice, and I realized, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I come out here by myself and I
Wow.
sit alone with myself and I'm breathing with myself through this little tool. And it was like something clicked. And I said, all I'm trying to do here is have a conversation with myself. I don't need a tool. I just need to remember to keep breathing. And so I actually was able to, by understanding this, I decided for the next 30 days, any moment that I feel this pressure, this anxiety, this stress, instead of vaping, I'm actually going to connect with myself. For me, it was 5 years old,
Wow.
recognizing when was the first time I felt alone or I felt overwhelmed. There was a memory that popped up of me being alone when I was 5 years old before
Wow.
I went to kindergarten. And I just remember feeling all these things and nobody was around me and I didn't understand it. And so I realized that is the version of me that feels stressed out in these moments as an adult. And so when I would experience this stress, I would check in with my 5-year-old self and ask, how am I feeling right now? And it was just a matter of listening and being aware of my body and just noticing like, okay, I feel a little bit hungry, or maybe I haven't, had enough water today, or I just need to
Yeah.
breathe through this. And so what you do over time is you actually repair trust with your body and your nervous system and yourself, that it's that your body trusts that you're going to show up and that you're going to answer the call when you're stressed out. And so over time, I didn't even remember that I had any kind of a vaping addiction because I dropped it
Wow.
cold turkey. I woke up the next day and literally I forgot that I even had that as a habit because I decided I want to be addiction free. And
Oh.
that's a different focus than saying I want to quit smoking, I want to quit
Yep.
drinking, I want to not overeat. That's a different target than if you finally say I want to be addiction free. And so that was the aha moment for me was, guess what? It's not that I want to stop doing this behavior. It's that I want to live entirely without it. Totally different target. And when I could make that connection of what am I really trying to accomplish here? It's that I'm trying to be present and not abandon myself
Mm-hmm.
when I feel stressed out. And so that is ultimately the root of what a lot of people are experiencing when they're scrolling on social media, when
Mm-hmm.
they jump from one relationship to another. They're never really dealing with below the surface emotions because most people aren't equipped. They don't know how to hold that. And it's
Wow.
understandable that you would come up with these solutions because it actually does work, quote unquote, work to fix or hide the underlying problem. But the reason why I really value this work is that it will teach you the architecture of why you're doing it. It'll show you the exact decisions and the beliefs linked to it that a lot of my clients naturally choose to get sober on their own.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a byproduct of the work. That's not even why they would necessarily come to me, but they naturally choose to release those habits because they no longer live in a state of self-abandonment as their baseline. That's how we have healthier relationships. It's how we have less abuse in the world. We have healthier families. We have kids who know how to stay with themselves when they're, you have parents that are like, I don't know what's going on with my kid. They're, screaming and throwing a tantrum. Let me just give them a phone or a tablet. But the kids can't learn how to communicate through stress if the parents don't know how to communicate through stress. And so that's how you get generations and generations and generations who abuse lives in family,
Yep.
self-abandonment lives in family, and addiction lives in the pattern of genetics. But all it takes is one person to make a decision and say, no, that is not my future. It may have been my past. I'm ready to experience something else.
Wow. 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 Hannah, this is great. And I love it because she just went right into everything. And I was going to ask, what did you want to talk about today? Well, here we go. We're on a roll already, right? Oh my goodness. So we got to help break these cycles, and we can break these cycles is really what you're saying, right?
Right.
And so what type of solutions do you offer in a sense to help people specifically? Talk to us about, your process and what you do.
Sure. So everybody is super unique, and most people have multiple ways of learning. And so sometimes if somebody just wants to work through a specific problem, they could set up like a one-on-one session with me, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual. Either way, it's going to be customized for you.
Okay.
And so it really is, I'm giving you a tour of the inside of yourself in real time. And so I act as a translator of your patterns and your beliefs and ultimately what's happening in your body. And so I have all these different tools that I've developed over the course of 22 years of doing this, where some of it's psychology. I might need to teach somebody just the basics of maybe self-awareness. And I use a learning style that I've created called Metaphor Magic. And so I use concepts that your body already knows. And I used a metaphor that's been reinforced through various levels of comprehension that it becomes self-aligning information. So you learn something about yourself. You learn that it's a pattern, that it's not your identity.
Okay.
And then I help you in the moment understand why you've had pain and doubt from it. Most of the time, people will instantly have like an aha moment or a breakthrough. A lot of the clients will cry. They'll have some kind of emotional release because it would be like learning that you have a whole upstairs in your house and you didn't even know it existed. That's what's happening with people's body is they don't have almost access to their emotions because it feels like a dark room within themselves that they are scared to go into. And so I am that person that as long as you're willing to face yourself, I am that person that will give you a tour inside of yourself and I'll kind of help you go back through hell and grab your keys so that you're no longer living in a personal prison. And so what I'm in the process of creating is how can I open these containers of education? And it's actually meant to be fun. So some of it is it's improv, psychic entertainment. And so I'm just to throw out an example, next Tuesday, I'm doing an open container for specifically men this time. If they want to come and experience this, it's a totally donation-based session. So they are not obligated to pay anything, but sometimes people feel like it feels better in their body if they actually give something to receive, and that's totally up to them. But it's an open container where they can come and experience custom education. It's a new form of therapy, but it's an energy clearing. And so you come just as you are, and I will help you based on who's there. We will come and create it in the moment. It's like a little recipe, but I will create a healing session for whoever wants to show up. And it is meant to be educational. It's meant to be energetically clearing, but ultimately it helps you release naturally stress and doubt and things start things that you weren't understanding before will now come into view for you. Yeah. And it will just give you a lot more confidence as far as making decisions in your life, because I feel like a lot of people that maybe have a lot of regrets or they go through a divorce and they have this kind of red letter on their chest of like, oh, I've gone through a divorce, I'm a failure. The truth is most people, if they've gone through a divorce, usually the first thing I tell them is congratulations. And I'm maybe one of the few people that looks at that like that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you've gone through some big life change or you finally walked away from an unhealthy relationship or you said no to a job that was like sucking your life force, you actually chose to move beyond something that wasn't working for you and you chose to walk closer to yourself. That's a win. And so sometimes you just need somebody to explain that to you so that you have an understanding of this could be a positive. It doesn't have to be a negative. And so sometimes it's just a perspective switch that needs to happen in the moment. And other times, like I said before, it might be walking them through a specific memory of themselves. And that is probably what we will do in this first session is I will actually help them reunite with the part of themselves that feels like it's being ignored or invisible. Because for a lot of men, they have been silenced and they have felt invisible for a lot of their life. And then they feel like, well, if I don't make this much money, or if I don't have, this many inches in my pants or whatever, like all these different metrics,
I know.
then I'm not worth anything. And it's why you have such a high suicide rate with men, because they put their value in something that ultimately can be taken away from you if it's just material based. And so it's really helping men to have the ability to see the value in being present, to feel present in your body and not have a lot of shame. And so in that conversation, that is what we will dive into. I will help them not only understand, well, here's why you struggle to get up in the morning, or here's why you're late everywhere, or this is why it's hard for you to hold on to money. Maybe for you, you feel like you're not trustworthy with being responsible because your dad was great with money and he always held that over your head. And so when you can start to understand the patterns and then another option is shown to you, your life can actually move in a way that feels good for you instead of recycling the old pattern of shame. And so next Tuesday at noon, Mountain Time, is when I'm going to be offering this. And I want as many men to come in that are willing and able to show up live where they're showing up for themselves. And it will be a very honest conversation that they will have with themselves, and it will be energy work. So a lot of it's not like they have to really talk about it, because the conversation will be internal. And so it is a spiritual experience in a lot of regards, because it's helping them get in touch with their soul more so than just their physical body. But because you're having that conversation, a lot of fear and pain and frustration, your body will naturally let it go, because your body really doesn't want to hold on to it. It's your mind that's holding on to it. And so the moment that you can have, it's like you're playing a game of memory with yourself. Once that big question mark finally gets answered, it's like when you're taking a test. You finally move on to the next question, but you don't need to keep giving yourself a pop quiz every single day, thinking that you're being tested. But sometimes, especially if you've grown up in a really controlling or high pressure environment, we think, well, God is testing me to see if I'm worthy of a relationship or if I'm worthy to make money. So you look at everything that goes on in your life as a test, instead of just allowing yourself to choose and say, well, actually, I had this thought. I don't have to go down that road. That's just a suggestion. Life is just suggesting that to me. That doesn't mean anything if I don't want it to be. So it puts you back in the driver's seat of your own car. And there's a lot of different angles that we will kind of hop in based on who's there. So it's actually going to be it's very custom therapy, and it's based on who will show up.
Yeah. Well, who will show up, right? And we want to show up for ourselves, and we want, the best for everyone. And, with your line of work and the people that you're helping, could you share, someone that you've inspired, you helped transform? Or,
Sure.
Yeah, it's always good to hear those type of positive reinforcement stories of how you're helping. Yeah.
Yeah. So like one of my clients she was a longtime friend of mine, and her husband were trying to get pregnant. And she had had a number of miscarriages, and her body was still holding on to that grief more than it was holding on to the possibility of life. And so she was actually in the energy of death. Wow. And so what I helped her through her session, we did a distance healing session over the phone. And the way that it works is I have my eyes closed and I'm almost holding two nervous systems at once. And so it is a form of astral projection
Okay.
while you're still present. And so we're kind of merging two souls, and I'm helping that person actually navigate their body. It doesn't matter if you're all the way across the world, it's just energy. So it's instant. So in this session with her, we actually helped her go back to this time where she felt a lot of grief and emptiness, like she was feeling. And it took her all the way back. I believe she was like 6 years old and she was in a car. And so she made contact with herself in the car and she held her younger self and she created space in her body to actually house this younger version of herself. And she listened. And at first, this younger self did not want to talk to her. She was pretty silent. And so it's kind of like you're making contact, it's this reunion, and then trust starts to get built. She was able to let herself cry, let herself remove the emptiness and actually make way for connection.
Yeah.
She said this was the most present she had ever felt in her body in her entire life.
Wow.
She said, my whole body feels buzzing. It's like I have electricity for the first time. I feel this. A couple of months later, her and her husband naturally got pregnant because she was now in the energy of being in life. And so this concept it's just, again, it's just patterning. So where that helped with her, it's the same concept of somebody else who's maybe grieving a friend that died when they were younger. And maybe they, this was another session I had with a client. He was the one that found his friend who had committed suicide, and he had held the grief of that. And truthfully, a lot of people that have gone through grief, to stay connected to the person, they will hold on to the grief, which is actually the very thing that's preventing them from still being connected to not only themselves, but the soul of that person. If you really believe in consciousness and godliness, there's much more life beyond just this moment. Like spirit is forever. Your human body is very limited, but your soul is forever. And so if you're willing to stay connected to yourself, you're actually connected to all of life. But when you're holding on to grief, it's like sitting in a dark room with no electricity and feeling sad. And that's what he was experiencing over and over and over. And it was regret. And he was holding that over his head. And I was able to help him walk back through that day when he had the thought I should reach out to my friend, and he didn't. So he had regret about that.
Yeah.
And he needed to make contact, not with his friend, with himself, with himself that day. That is what he actually was able to do. He was sobbing on the phone and just releasing all of that. And he said a similar thing. He said, I have never been able to feel at peace about that. I have felt so terrible about that. And I've held that over my own head for years and years. And now I actually can see a new way of viewing this, because now if I'm more connected to myself, I do feel more connected to the forces that are beyond me. And I do feel more connected to him. His presence is in my life. I just couldn't see it because I was living in the dark, being, trying to connect my personal Wi-Fi to grief. So those are two examples of it's life-changing work, because it's your whole state of being completely upgrades, but it's also so custom. Everybody has their own individual story, and not everybody needs this work, but I would say it's usually for the person who's tried most everything and nothing else worked. That's literally why I created it, because I tried, praying. I tried just quitting cold turkey. I tried being positive. I tried medication. I went to doctors. I went to therapists. I went to energy workers. Like nothing could really help me. And it makes sense because none of those systems really understood the depth that I was experiencing myself, but they weren't designed for me to eliminate the problem. they're designed to keep you in your symptoms. And so when you go to a traditional doctor and you say, hey, I have stress and anxiety, most of the time they're not saying, well, how can we eliminate the stress and anxiety? They're saying, here's some medication so that you can deal with it.
Yeah.
But you still have a stress and anxiety. And that actually, the way I look at it, what it is, it's a distrust in yourself. That's what anxiety is. It's like you have a short in your own electrical cord. If you're able to repair that with you, you don't feel stressed and anxious making decisions because you know you're the best person to make the decisions for your life, and you don't live your life based on regrets, because you can see the value that every decision you've made up until this point led you to where you are. And actually, if you've looked at how many days have you not woken up? 0. You have 100% success rate at life. This is sometimes the easiest way for someone to see that they're successful is to see, well, how many days have you not been able to conquer so far? You've conquered all of them. So your success rate, you're doing better than Lysol. Lysol wipes are what, 99.9%? You're at 100% at life right now. So if you can look at how well you're doing by continuing to going and continuing to try, some people are never actually accustomed to even look at their wins because they're so focused on what they've done wrong and what they don't have. And that's actually the pattern of perfectionism. And it's the pattern of scarcity mindset. It's the same pattern when it's looked through a binary lens. And
Thank you, Hannah. Again, I'm sorry we have to wrap it up for today. Okay? Thank you. How do we get in touch with you, please?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing open enrollment on my Instagram, so they can find me at hfoolio, HFOOLIO, or they can go to mysoulhappy on Instagram. And if they DM me Kings, they can get the link to either apply for my program, or if they want to come to the free energy session on Tuesday, they can send that to me as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Hannah. Pleasure having you back. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.